to get to know you a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, I mean, so was raised in Western Pennsylvania. Both of my parents are from Peru. I came to Philadelphia after graduating from Bryn Mawr College, and I've been working here almost a decade at this point, working in film spaces. I used to be the director of programming at the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival. I worked my way up from volunteer. I worked at Scribe Video Center. Now I have my own production company.
And to start with the title, expanding sanctuary, as you reflect on the journey of 6 years and how relevant it is today, tell us a little bit about the behind thinking of that.
Yeah. So the name Expanding Sanctuary actually came from one of the Juntos organizers, Miguel Andrade, actually came up with the name. I was asking the organizers at the time, what name would kind of encapsulate this, and that was one of the main purposes of the PARS campaign at the time, was to expand the sanctuary protections in the city. But I think right now, as I've been thinking more about the name of the film, I feel like it's just as relevant in 2018 as it is right now, because of everything that's happening in the world, the fact that our current mayor, Shaw Parker, kind of refuses to accept sanctuary city policies, hasn't been an advocate for immigrants at all, actually quite the opposite. So I think the name of the film has become more significant as years have passed.
Yeah, even the term sanctuary, right? Where a lot of, and this administration in particular, is completely removed from that, and now there's another term for it for now. So tell us about the journey, because it's been, as I mentioned, 6 years. Like, what kept you motivated and committed to telling this story in particular?
Yeah, so we filmed in 2018. The film was completed in 2023. It took a long time to get to that process. We premiered in November 2023 at St. Louis International Film Festival. From there, we've screened basically all over the world at this point. We were very lucky to get an award from Black Star, the Philadelphia Filmmaker Award in 2024. And now we're doing an impact campaign with different organizations, basically across the country, to advocate for immigrant rights. It's been a long process, and I think the thing that's motivated me has been basically the fact that things are very, very difficult right now for immigrants. This current administration has been doing basically everything it can to round up and deport immigrants and to create the conditions in this country that are incredibly hostile for people that look like us, right? Even if you are a U.S. citizen, but you are not white, you still are questioned by ICE. It's happened throughout the country at this point. And so seeing all of that that's happening, it's really the reason why I feel so energized towards trying to have more screenings of the film, trying to have conversations with community members talking about, the issues in the film, but also the fact that this happened in 2018, but it's still happening today in an even worse way. So, yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah, and tell us about filming and editing, thinking back, and how did that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, so Expanding Sanctuary was kind of my first film after graduating from college. So it took me a long time. I made a lot of mistakes in the process. But what I did learn was to have a good team behind me. I filmed everything, which I would never do in a film now, but the editing process took a really long time because I had to do reshoots. I had to kind of figure out where the story was going. And I think, it's like todo pasa en su tiempo. It really needed the time to develop itself for me to figure out what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it, to build up my production company also in the process. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. No, that was great. And then tell me about so the story begins with a deep personal desire of bringing a mom to the U.S. and then it sort of evolves into a collective political, action. Why was that important to bring into the story?
Yeah, so Expanding Sanctuary, for Linda and her journey as the protagonist of the film, she really wanted to bring her mom to her wedding. She hadn't seen her mom in years at that point, decades. She came to the United States, I think she was 18 at the time, and so she hadn't seen her mom since she was 18, and she was getting married, and she really wanted her mom there. That was really the catalyst personally for Linda to get involved in Juntos, and that's how we start the film. And as the film moves forward, you see other moments where she is really stepping up into her power, becoming a community leader. She even uses her own wedding as a protest, wearing her whole wedding dress, having signs, going to City Hall and leading a mini demonstration. And for me, the film is really about a mother's love. It's really rooted in that and the love that moms have for their children and for their community. And so seeing all these little moments with her and her family cooking, with her getting married, with her using her wedding as a protest, it really goes to show how the political is in our everyday acts as well, and how it's so important for us to be stepping up and really advocating for our communities and our loved ones.
And obviously, Juntos is a big part of this. How was working with them and their mission? How was that?
Yeah, so I got connected with Juntos in 2017. It took a long time kind of talking to the organizers, really building a relationship with them before I brought in a camera in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I filmed different events that they had going on. They had a volunteer session, they had some youth art painting sessions. I had filmed a lot of things, trying to figure out what the film could be about. That was at the same time when they started the PARS campaign. And it kind of, because they had just started that campaign, I was like, well, let's make the film about this. In that process, I had been very transparent with them that this was my first film after graduating from college, that there was a lot of learning that I needed to do, but that I was also going to be very open with them. If they wanted footage, they could have it. If they needed me to delete things, I can delete it. If they, had some sensitive information that, was occurring, I would turn off the camera. Because a lot of people came in and would talk about their cases,
Mm-hmm.
their immigration cases, and so I had to turn off the camera, because I can't really be recording that. It's too sensitive. And so what ended up being filmed and shown in the film is a community meeting where they really discussed and talked about the PARS campaign, everything that was happening, the sharing of the local Philadelphia police database with immigration, and how that was leading to a rise in deportations locally. And that's really the segment that we include in the film, and some art making as well. But we were very intentional to only show kind of a specific portion in the film, and to blur out faces of people that were a little. For me, it's really important to make sure people are safe in this. There's a lot of folks with different immigration statuses that go to Juntos, so we really tried to take as many precautions as possible to keep people safe in telling the story. And that was a big part of why they allowed me in, is because I was very transparent with them. I was like, whatever you need me to delete or stop recording or change in the film. And we did a lot of rough cut screenings in community as well. The protagonist of the film saw like 40 different cuts of the film, some of which were terrible, some of which were way better. So over the years, the film evolved, but we always kind of stayed in communication with the community.
So, you completed the film in 2023, and then here we are today. And like you mentioned earlier, it's so relevant today. How does that make you feel? Where sometimes you think of certain work and in the advocacy space where you hope that you don't have to continue to talk about the same things, but now it's like you said, even worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when we premiered the film in 2023, you know, it was kind of tough to get into festivals because at that point it was like everyone was like, oh, immigration, it's over. Don't need to talk about that. Even I was like, thank God that this is no longer relevant because it's such a difficult topic. You know, it really affects a lot of people in this community. And I was like, okay, I'm glad this is like old news, but you know, and the film is really about the first Trump administration. I never thought that there would be a second Trump administration. I would have, wow, I mean, now everyone's like, oh, it's so relevant. I have like organizations reaching out wanting to show the film because it's like, it's pretty astounding that I filmed this. I really was like, I hope that this film kind of gets old and, you know, people kind of forget about it. But then, unfortunately, we're back in the very similar reality as we were in 2018 with Trump being president, with the escalation of raids, with the escalation of immigration enforcement across the country, and with more surveillance of immigrant communities. And so it's a scary time. Yeah.
So where can, you know, you have a few upcoming showings, like where can people find the film? How can we support the work that you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so we'll be showing Expanding Sanctuary for 2 nights at Bartram's Garden on April 29th and 30th. It'll be a table sessions with Journey Arts, so you can go to the Journey Arts website. I think it's journeyarts.org, but you might want to double check that. And also, if you're interested in watching Expanding Sanctuary, you can go to sotomayorproductions.com/watch, and there will be different options on there as well for how to watch the film online.
So now let's talk about a topic that is very, very important to me, and I think that, you know, there's not enough being said about that, and that is, you know, representation in media, and, you know, why we need more folks like you and people of color in this industry. Tell us about, like, you know, what that's meant to you, and, you know, as you continue on with your career, are we seeing growth? Are we seeing, you know, more representation? Is it getting worse?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, I would say right now, representation in media, especially in film, we're having like kind of a bit of a crisis right now because, I mean, at a federal level, they had cut the funding to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which impacts PBS stations across the country. That's one of the, you know, best routes for independent filmmakers to get their work broadcast to a national audience, and it's also free for communities. So now communities don't, you know, it's like there's going to be a suffering in the coverage of PBS stations and the capacity of stations. I mean, so many stations have laid off a lot of their staff. And additionally, the fact that this administration and even the past administration also are very happy with mergers and monopolies, and they're very happy to allow monopolies in streaming platforms and, you know, really like the massive production companies. It's going to be a problem. I mean, if Paramount acquires Warner Brothers, I mean, basically there's going to be like 2 or 3 like major places where you can show your film at that point, because they're all kind of conglomerates owned by different things. So it's basically now Paramount if they acquire Warner, and then Netflix, and then I guess some other smaller like platforms, like Disney, basically. So it's, you know, it's like after that, it's kind of very difficult to get your work seen. And actually, in like other countries in Europe, they have mandates in which Netflix must show like a certain amount of films from that specific region. And so they're giving money back to the community. But we don't do that in the United States. We don't have those sorts of rules. We should, 100%. I mean, it impacts like our ability to actually make important art. And not only that, because the federal government is very interested in having a specific sort of messaging put out into the world. We've seen that there's like a vast decline in representation in Latino spaces, in Black stories, queer stories. I mean, there's basically, like, you show a trans movie, like, stations are like, oh my god, are we gonna get, FCC brought down on us? So there's actual, like, a real problem right now. It's not pretty, and it's probably not gonna get better anytime soon.
And so, as a first generation, Latinx non-binary filmmaker, how are you navigating this moment? And like, what do you say to, a younger version of yourself who is considering entering this space, knowing all the challenges?
I mean, it's really, really difficult. I would say right now, the way that I'm trying to navigate the space is to just, try to build more of a following for my work, try to do more independent distribution, because Netflix is definitely not going to show a film about a Latina immigrant mother, thriving out in the world and, helping her community. It's just not something that is part of their agenda, their propaganda that they want to put out. So, that's challenging, doing independent distribution. But I would say to, like, young aspiring filmmakers, young Latino filmmakers, is that I think that there are a lot of opportunities out there because people are hungry for things that represent us. 1 in 3 movie tickets is bought by like a Latino consumer. So there are definitely people like us that want to see people like us on screen. We have a large buying power in this country. We're actually about to be the majority in this country very soon, which is why there's been the rise in, white supremacy. But we're about to be the majority. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, if you try to establish your audience early and you try to really like bring the stories that you want to see into the world. There's people who want to see that for sure.
I think you touched on something super important, and that is the power of us as a community. And I feel like there's a disconnect in us, our own claiming that and like talking about it more often. And like I think it, pretty much the buck stops, where like whenever there's action. And I think if our community were to understand the power and like say, we're like our decisions are driven by like what we feel, why do you think why are we missing that? I think when you see other communities, the Latino community is still not like very much owning that narrative, and we should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a large question that I've talked to with other like Latino filmmakers because there are a few Latino organizations that support filmmakers. They're not a lot. They don't have a lot of money. They can't really do very much to help you. You can take a class there, but to pay for it, they don't really give you grants. Other, I would say, racial ethnic groups have like their film funds. They're like membership groups that give you like incredible access. But I haven't really seen that as much in the Latino community, in the cinema space, or in the documentary space even too. And I think it has to do with a few different things. Like a lot of us are first generation typically in this country, so we don't have like an established root here. And also the Latino demographic is one of the most underpaid in the country too. So it's like when your community is like large, but a lot of people are very working class and like pretty recent to the country, we don't have like long established roots, makes it hard. Like some of these other organizations for other racial and ethnic groups have been around decades. And the ones for Latino, population are basically like maybe like a few years old, not even 10 years old. So I think that's a large problem.
We mentioned, the sort of the branding of sanctuary cities, and how pretty much a majority of nationwide, different cities, administrations that were, backing away from that. Now it's referred to as Philadelphia as a welcoming city. That's what the city solicitor and the mayor's office has said. What, and in the context of this film, like, what is your message to this administration in particular?
I would say to Mayor Cheryl Parker, please actually advocate for communities of color. You gave up Chinatown to the highest bidding billionaire, and you cannot be doing that for the rest of all of the people of color. This is a people of color centric and like city. Like it's a majority black city, and then after that, like there's so many immigrants here for you to not be standing up and advocating for sanctuary city status in this state. Like it doesn't make sense. But I hope that when re-election comes that either you change your policies or a strong enough candidate comes along that does advocate for immigrants.
So we were talking about 2026, significant year for the city. The world will essentially be paying attention to what happens in Philly. And obviously the elephant in the room is if something were to happen like it did in Minneapolis, like is the city prepared? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, 2026 is really important because of it's like the 250th anniversary of the founding of the country, and the Declaration of Independence was signed in Philadelphia, and the Liberty Bell's here, so a lot of visitors will be coming to Philly. A lot of investment has been made into the infrastructure around that. All the roads are being repaved for it, and the FIFA World Cup is coming to Philly. So there are a lot of eyes on Philly. I'm hoping on a mayoral administration level that there is some sort of plan for this, for if there is a ramping up of ICE raids. I haven't seen anything. I haven't heard anything communicated to the community that in the affirmative that there is something, so who knows. But I do think that local immigrant rights organizations have been doing quite a bit of work, as much as they possibly can, with limited funding, limited staff, and limited resources, to have the community be educated, to have people on every block of Philadelphia that can call in if there's an ICE raid in their neighborhood. I mean, I think at this point, we really need government intervention in some way to really protect people. It's very difficult to be a community organizer. It's very difficult to volunteer to help in these sorts of ICE raid efforts. I mean, even if you're trying to block a blockade, we've seen several volunteers get shot at this point by ICE in Minneapolis. So, I mean, it's a very difficult time, and if our mayor isn't able to step up and support immigrants, it's going to be devastating.
So tell us a little bit about the cast and selecting that. Obviously, there's a lot of like community representation. Why was that important?
In the film?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Expanding Sanctuary, Linda became kind of like the obvious protagonist for the film because she started going to Juntos around the same time that we started filming. And I have some footage of her at her first meetings, and she's kind of like quietly sitting there. And as she started to go to more and more meetings, she really started to speak up more and to ask questions and to be like, I'll go here and I'll put flyers up. Oh, I'll go here. Oh, you need someone to like speak at this protest. I'll go speak. So it was kind of like naturally she became the protagonist of the film. But I would say the film is a success story in that they were able to overturn the PARS policy. But there was, as I was filming, we were literally going up to the deadline for the contract to be renewed, and we were like, oh my gosh, it's gonna pass again. There isn't any sort of like citywide pushback against this policy. People aren't stepping up to support immigrants right now, and that all changed in 2018 when there was that photo of the the little boy who was in essentially like a cage in a detention center. People were so outraged nationally that there were like protests, and people were really like rising up to help and like support the immigrant communities. I haven't seen that yet. Like, I think we really need to get to that point or something happens that it kind of just like wakes people up to the reality that we're in. And I just really hope it's not that ICE is descending on Philly and that's what wakes people up. I hope it's like something like that photo that, you know, you didn't even have to be there, you didn't even live in the same state as the photo was taken, but you could just, it was like heartbreaking, you know, to see a child in those conditions.
Yeah. Do you think that, you know, we're sort of like numb to, like every day, you know, it's something bizarre and we're to the point that it's like, yeah, that happened and no one's surprised. And you know, just considering the murder of George Floyd, and you know what came out of that, you know, was a movement nationwide, internationally as well. But we're not seeing the same energy anymore, and you know, we had people murdered. We all watched it. There are, you know, sort of these concentration camps, you know, across the country, and it seems like, you know, they're gearing up to continue building more of those, and you know, the people inside there are just in inhumane conditions, horrible. But yeah, do you think that that moment is coming? Do you feel hopeful that people will stand up for what's right?
Yeah, I think right now there's been kind of like a collective burnout of seeing like sad things on the news. So it's just the world that we live in. It's pretty overwhelming. I feel like in the first like month of Trump's second term, I was like, wow, I've aged like 10 years in the level of exhaustion, because every day he was like signing a new executive order that just stripped people of all of their rights. It was, oh my gosh, like it was overwhelming. Like I sometimes don't even check the news anymore because I can't, like my heart physically can't anymore. But I do think that we're approaching a point where it's like, it's too much. It's too many things. Like you just are trying to declare a war with, well, you just declared war with Iran. Like you're trying to take over Greenland. You changed all of our maps so that it's the Gulf of America. Like it's like too many things, one after the other, that I feel like, number one, our leaders in power need to impeach. Like they need to start an impeachment trial. And number two, I think that there's going to be some sort of an escalation either with ICE or with policing or with the war that they're trying to create in Iran and all the tension that they have with like Russia and North Korea, that something's going to boil over and something's going to happen, for better or for worse, and people are going to be like violently shaken awake and need to do something about it. And unfortunately, we're just in a time period where it's like it's just too many things. Yeah, it's scary.
Well, now let's switch into a lighter note. But you know, let's talk about some of the recognitions that the film has received. How does that make you feel as a film director?
Yeah, I mean, when we won the Philadelphia Filmmaker Award at Blackstar, I started crying. I mean, I was like, oh my God, this means so much to me, because it took so long to make the film. Like, I literally was smiling ear to ear. I was like trying to hold back tears. Oh my gosh, it was like one of the best moments, for sure. Like it was wow. And then since then, the film has won a few other awards, and it's been like pretty amazing to see the reception of the film, especially whenever I show it kind of to college campuses. Mm-hmm. I love that students always point out, there's a scene in the film where Linda and her family are eating and they're talking about, we don't say what, we say mande. And every single time after a screening with like youth, mm-hmm. one of the youths comes up to me and is like, my family says mande, we don't say what, that's like so rude. So I really like that people resonate with that moment in particular, because it's such a lovely, like, it establishes like her and her family and the routine that they have and the love that they share. And I just think like it's so resonant to so many people, and that's to me like a very proud moment.
And what's next for you? What should we expect?
Yeah, I mean, I have several other films out. One of them that's right now in the festival circuit, it's called Las Cosas que Brillan. It's about a trans Latina mermaid coming of age and finding herself in a set that was built entirely from scratch. There's like hand painted waves that move back and forth, and she has like a little clam puppet that's her friend, a little seagull that flies in on marionettes and greets her. And so it's a very magical film. It's like a film that I've always wanted to make. And it's going to be showing at different film festivals. Premiered at Black Star. We were very thankful to receive funding from Black Star to make that film. And then I'm working on a film about Las Cafeteras, which is currently, we're in production, we're still filming, and we'll be fundraising for that in the summer. But it's about the work that the Chicano band Las Cafeteras does for immigrant rights. So it's about their amazing music and also advocating for their community and for you'll meet like their parents and their family that are all immigrants, and you'll really like get to fall in love with them. I mean, it'll be fun because there's great music and then it's like great, lovely people.
And I guess, you know, to close this out, what would you say to your younger self? You know, let's say 10, 15 years ago. If I don't know if you've ever even considered this as like this is going to be my career. Like, what would you say to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, 10, 15 years ago when I was still in college, I was pre-med, so it's a vast right turn. So I would say, you know, just be yourself, trust who you are. I mean, who would have known I would have had like red hair and I was non-binary, and you know, I'm making films about Latinidad and trans mermaids, and like who I didn't know, but this is who I am, and so I can just trust who you are, be you, have fun. Yeah.
And lastly, what does next in Philly mean to you?
The phrase next in Philly. I think the phrase next in Philly to me means what's the next generation and what's upcoming for the city? How are we going to change and be better for our communities? And who are the leaders that are going to take us there?